Hi guys, my name is Kyle Carter. I'm the business and computers teacher here at Richland R1 School. I'm also the yearbook advisor. I've had many people ask us over the years how we take photos in locations that we can't be at during the event. So whether it's something like prom or it's something like a basketball game, we'll set up what we call remotes and fire them remotely. We'll be somewhere within the crowd or somewhere around the event and we're firing our cameras. So today for my MJE project, I'm going to show you how to set up a remote and I'm going to show you how to fire it. All right, so the first thing I want to tell you is remotes are not for everybody. You do have to have a good understanding of your camera. You have to understand how to be able to set all the settings on your camera. That's both your ISO, your shutter speed, your f-stop, your focus, and your lens length. And if you don't have all of those different things, you've got to be able to figure that out first. So I'm assuming that the knowledge that you have, at least that you know how to control your camera. Today I'm going to show you how to set up two different remotes for two different cameras because they're set up just a little bit differently. We're working on a basketball remote today that's going to be up in the rafters, so you'll see Liza set it up later in the video. But today I want to walk you through how we do and what we do. The first piece for you to understand is what's called our magic arm. So this is a magic arm. You can get it from pretty much any photo place. Get it from Adorama, B&H, any of those guys. It'll cost you about 130 to 150 bucks. On one end, we usually use what's called a C-clamp. So you guys can see why it's called a C-clamp. As you turn it one way, it gets wider. You turn it the other way, it gets tighter. And what this does is this clamps onto whether it's a pole or whatever it is that you're wanting to brace your camera with. The other part is what we call our camera seat, or it's where your camera actually sits. You'll take this little thing right here, screw it into the bottom of your camera, and your camera will actually sit right there. Now, the first thing that I always preach to my students is safety. You must safety cable your camera before you do anything else. To be honest, before we even go to a shoot, I really like for them to have their safety cables ready to go. We have two different types of safety cables. We have a thin safety cable and we have a thick safety cable. The thin safety cable goes on the bottom of our cam. So there's actually a little bracket on the bottom of the camera where our thin safety cable goes through. You take it and slide it through that bottom piece, just like that, and then you push it through. As you can see, you can get the top clip part of it, clip it on, and now you're safety cabled in. So no matter what happens to this camera, as long as it's safety cabled somewhere, it's not going to fall. Some of our cameras, we put 100 to 150 feet in the air. If they fail both, yes, they're going to destroy the camera, but they're also going to really hurt somebody, if not kill them on the floor. So we want to make sure that we always safety cable in before we do anything else. So you can see we already have the safety cable attached. The next piece is to go through and make sure that you have all of your pieces in your camera. Obviously you want to check and make sure you have a battery. You also want to check and make sure that you have a card that has plenty of frames on it. So as you can see on the back of this camera, we've got over 8,000 frames still that we can fire. Today we're using an EOS 1DX Mark II. It's one of the best cameras that Canon has on the market at the moment. So what we do, we take our magic arm, and there's where we're going to screw into on the bottom of the camera. You want to sit it so that your battery goes next to the peg. If you can see that peg, set it on that way. And then try to get it as flush as you possibly can. So I've got it set on there and I've got it nice and tight. You can always loosen it up later if you need to move it just a little bit, but you want to have it as tight as you possibly can to begin with. And then I tighten this down on the peg. So as you can see, it moves, but not very much. Once you get it to where you're going to put it in the final location, you want to tighten that down as well to make sure that it doesn't move anymore. Notice we do still have our strap on our camera and we already have that safety cable on our camera. That way, whenever we get up there, the first thing we do is we safety cable in. Now you've got to decide what you're shooting. Like I said before, we're going to do an overhead today. And I think Liza usually likes to use her 7200. It gives her a little bit more of a frame and it gives her a little bit less of extra stuff on the sides. So what we'll do is we'll go ahead and put our camera lens on. Always go red dot to red dot with a Mark II. Leave this on and leave your hood backwards for now. That way, whenever you get in there, you can go ahead and take that off, put it in your pocket, and then turn your hood. So what we've got set up is we've got set up our magic arm, which is already ready to go. I'll tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to bracket it right here. So it's holding. I'm going to turn the camera around to the side. I'm going to lock it in place. And just to show you guys how we're going to do it, I'm going to go ahead and put on one of our short lenses. We'll put on our 16-35. So let's say that we were doing a backboard cam. This is the lens that we would use. Red dot to red dot. Okay, so the next thing that you need is you're going to need a way to fire your camera once you get it up there. For us, we use Pocket Wizards. And honestly, it depends on how far or what our range is, how far we're going to be from the remote as to what Pocket Wizard we use. We have two different types. We have the Pocket Wizard Multimax, which are no longer available on the regular market, but you can get them on the secondary market. Places like eBay, they do still have them. And then we have the Pocket Wizard Plus. I believe these are the Plus 3s. They've gone up to Plus 4s and Plus 5s now. Most of the time, we use the Multimaxes because indoors, short range, not a big deal. But if I'm shooting outdoors or I'm shooting something that would be a long way away from my remote, the Multimax Plus does have what's called long range capability so that I can fire that beam to fire it a lot longer way. Today, I'm just going to use the regular Multimaxes. So on the Multimax, you can see on the side of it where it says transmit and receive. Obviously, I want it to be on transmit. I want to show that it's in transmit mode, and I want to be able to see what channel I'm on. Today, I'm in channel 17. So my receiver, need to make sure that it's in receive, and that it also is in channel 17. So I'll take it, and then I've got to have a motor drive cord. Now for some cameras, they have what's called a pin system. So there's 3 pins on the end of this one, just like on the gold one here. There's 3 pins on the end of it. And it depends on your body. Some bodies have a pin system, like I said. Some bodies actually have just a straight cord that goes in. So you have to know that for your camera before you can actually buy one of these. So you've got to know how to remotely fire it. What we'll do is we'll take one of the pin systems, and we'll slide it in, and now it's in place. Make sure our camera's on. Take our Pocket Wizard that's set to remote to receive, put it in the port that says camera, and just for now I'm going to set it up here. Just have a place to hold it. And here I can fire now. You can hear the camera fire. But what I haven't done yet is I haven't set my settings for my camera and I haven't set my focus for my camera, which is very important to do. Most of the time, I'll do that before I actually plug in my Pocket Wizard. So I've got to go through and set my settings as to where I want them to be for my camera. I highly recommend you use manual as far as when you're setting your shutter speed, ISO, and your f-stop. That way you're controlling everything that goes into that camera. Also, you want to make sure that you set your focus. So let's zoom in on whatever it is we're going to take a picture of. And then we're going to set our focus to manual focus. And I also highly suggest that you tape right here. That way, in case you get some kind of breeze from an air conditioner, or if this is on the backboard of a camera or on the backboard of a basketball goal and it gets shook like this for an hour or two, that may very well shake out of focus just a little bit. So what you want to do is tape down right here so that your actual distance that you're shooting and so that your focus doesn't change. Once you have all of that in place, go back through and reconnect and fire away. Now, the one thing I will warn you about is that your camera may very well go to sleep. Most cameras are set to go to sleep after 30 seconds to a minute. You can turn that off. And what that does is it will drain your battery faster, but you also don't have to wake it up. What you'll notice is your camera will go to sleep after about 2 or 3 minutes, if not less than that, and you'll have to tap the button to wake it up. If it's already awake, it will take a photo. If it's not awake, once you tap the button, it will wake up. One thing I do want to warn you about with Pocket Wizards is that they're automatically set to beep, which means that if they do, they can be a bit distracting. Can you hear the beep? Especially when you're doing something really close up or you're doing something that is very particular. We learned it with clay shooting. They really don't like hearing the beep. They don't mind the shutter so much. But like in basketball, you don't want to hear a beep when you go up for a shot. So you go to menu, you go to basics, go to beep, and you disable it. I'll walk you through that once again. So you can go to menu, you go to basic settings, you go to beep, and then you go to disable. And then it's quiet. Now there are some cameras as well that you can get that have what's called a silent shutter setting. I highly recommend you use that as long as it doesn't take away from the frames per second. With the 1DX Mark II, it shoots about 14 frames a second, and it does that when it's set as a remote as well. The problem is with some silent shutters, it'll cut you down to about 6 frames a second. So you need to be very careful about that with your camera when you're getting it set up so that you know what you're going to get out of your camera and what to expect. One of the other differences that you can see is I also have a T6i setting here. So a T6i you can also set up as a remote, but it sets up just a little bit differently. Let's take our lens off. Put it on our body. But instead of using the triple head cord, I'm going to use a different cord for it. It actually works on what's called a straight cord. So as you can see on both ends, it has both straight lines. So we're going to take one, put it in our camera port, and use it as a receiver. However, for the T6i, instead of using, like I said, the triples that goes in here, plugs in, turn it on. Everything should be good to go. And it'll fire the same as the other one. Or it should at least. So you can hear the difference. The T6i is quieter, but it doesn't fire near as fast. So the frame rate on it is only about 4.5 or 5 now. So it's shooting about a third as fast as the 1DX. So for sports, obviously you want to try and shoot as fast as you possibly can with your frames per second. But if that's what you have to work with, this is a T5i, it certainly will work.
Okay, so now that we have all our gear together, we need to move to our location. And we do this with our lift. So our goal is to put the camera literally right up in that rafter so it comes down and you can see part of the goal and then you can see this part of the court, which is the paint area. So, the first thing we always do is safety cable our camera to the rafters. I already have this cord on the camera as Carter showed you how we put it, right here. So I'm just gonna unhook it. Ow. Then, put it around this beam right here. Hook it back to the camera. So this ensures that if in the process of hanging, our camera does fall, that it can't go anywhere because it's safety cabled to the beam. So now that we've got that done, I'm gonna go ahead and hook the C-clamp to this beam right here. And it's pretty simple. All I do is attach it to the beam and tighten it. And I tighten it as far as it'll go because I don't want this thing falling. I think what we are going to do, I can't decide if I want to go, we might go this way. Let's see here. Oh, got my safety cable. Okay, let me look through this. I'm gonna look through and see where I want to place my camera. And so you just want to see kind of the basic spot where you're going to put it. So I'm looking through my viewfinder, kind of figuring out where I want to place it. I believe I want it to go back a little bit. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to undo this clamp again and move it up. Because right now we're safety cable to the Raptor, and that safety cable will only let me go so far. I would rather undo the C-clamp and have to put it back than to undo the cable and accidentally drop this camera and then put a hole in our floor. That would not be very good. I would probably get in a lot of trouble. So, okay, that was too far. Let's see. Tighten this part of your magic arm. Okay, so I did just do a little more adjusting, but I think I have it now where I want it. And right now we only have one safety cable on, so I'm actually gonna go ahead and put two others on. So right now the camera body itself is safety cabled to the Raptor. So what we're going to do next is actually loop this through our magic arm like that. Loop it through the camera strap and around this little beam right here. So that ensures that if the magic arm does fall, it is secured by safety cables. The camera strap is secured by a safety cable, so we have the camera actual safety cable twice. And that ensures that nothing will happen and it can't go anywhere. I've got it set, and I have my settings set, so Katie, if you want to come up here. So when we hang overheads, our general settings, our ISO is at 4000, our f-stop is at 3.2, and our shutter speed is at 640. This gives us the lighting we like, and our shutter speed allows us to freeze the action. And so also you can see that I have it on manual focus. So to set our manual focus, I actually have, if you can see, can you like show on the floor, kind of? Okay, so our main spot where we're getting action is actually just right in front of the goal. So to set my manual focus, I will have a student stand right in front of the goal and put their arm straight in the air, just like this. And then I will focus on their palm. I'll hold the button down halfway, which allows me to focus. And then on the lens, actually, there's a button that you switch over to manual. So I'll switch over to manual focus, and that keeps the manual focus right there, ensuring that it will focus. So if you have it in autofocus, it'll take too long to focus when it's trying to focus on so many different things. So that's why I changed it to manual. And then the next part of the setup is how we trigger it. And we do that by using Pocket Wizards, as Carter told you. So in one Pocket Wizard, you will attach this cable, goes in camera port 1, and the other end goes in this little port in the battery, or in the camera. I don't know why I said battery. There it is. Woo! Boom. And so this Pocket Wizard will be on receive mode. What I do is I usually just put it on this beam One important thing when using Pocket Wizards is to make sure you're on the same channel. So we're on channel 20 on this one, and you need to make sure you're on channel 20 on your transmit mode so that it'll fire. So run the same mode. Working, camera's firing, and then that's all it is. So here's a quick, just close up C-clamp on the beam. Here's the magic arm. And this also tightens up too. So you have to make sure you tighten that. There it is on the camera body. We have safety cables hooked around this beam right here. Camera strap, lens down there, and our Pocket Wizards. Break it down, this process is so much easier, but it is important that you make sure that you take the precaution of doing it right. So when taking it down, I usually just get the Pocket Wizard out of the way. Just lay it down here. My other one, just lay it down here. And the last thing that you want to do when taking it down is the cables, just to make sure that it's still safety cabled until you have everything else done. So what I do is I just untighten. Well, actually, you don't even have to untighten this, but I will show you that you can untighten this. Untighten this. Okay. So you've got it unsecured from the beam, but it's actually still secured to the beam by your cables, because safety first.
In the second part of this video, I want to show you some of our uses of remotes other than just an overhead for basketball. Many times we shoot a remote, we also shoot video with our GoPro as well. So I'll try to show you the setup if I can, maybe some video from the GoPro, and certainly a few images from the remote location itself. Here, Liza once again is setting up a remote in the rafters, but this time for volleyball. She must preset everything on the camera once it's mounted to the ceiling. But because the spot of the location of the athlete is much less predictable in volleyball, she must use a higher f-stop to get more in focus. Notice how she's angled the camera down and has picked one point on the floor as her focal point. And just to answer any questions before you ask, yes, she might have gone just a little overboard on the taping down both her focal length and her focus ring. One of our favorite angles is our remote backboard camera. Here, freshman Daisy Rich is getting ready to set up our backboard camera at Advance High School. As you can see, she is cleaning both sides of the glass. We get some very cool art from this angle, but remember, some backboards are just too nasty to shoot through. Even though you may clean both sides of it, it may still not work. The glass needs to be nice and clean on both sides. I want to make sure and thank Advance School for allowing us to shoot these in their gym. We've shot, I think, 3 times in their gym using our backboard camera. When shooting a backboard camera, remember to get it as tight as you can because it's going to have some shake depending on how much the backboard shakes during the game. You also need to make sure and preset your focus. And as you can see from the 2 different setups that I'm showing here, you can shoot it either vertical or horizontal. It really depends on your preference as to what you want. We typically use anywhere from 1 to 3 remotes for prom. Because we are such a small school, even though prom is for juniors and seniors, many of our freshmen and sophomores end up getting asked and attending as well. More than once, this has left me high and dry with no shooters. I devised a setup of different remotes to help me be able to cover promenade and allow my students, at least for a few minutes, to just be students. Here I have 3 different remotes, one directly under the lights to the left of the walkway, one overhead of the walkway, which my 8-year-old daughter shot remotely, and one set up in the stands that I had set up on a different remote. Along with the 400-2.8 in my hands, this gives me 4 different looks and 4 different angles of the walk-in during prom. Shooting different remotes with the same Pocket Wizard as your transmitter is very simple, as long as you use different channels on the receiving remotes. And on your transmitter, you can switch back and forth between channels very simply, and remember which channel is set for which remote. One of our favorite sports to shoot here at Richland with our remote is our clay team. Obviously, we can't put a person out in front of them to take photos while they're shooting at their clays, but we can set up a remote, and usually we put our GoPro on it. You can see here about how far we are set up from the individual shooting. It's just a camera on a tripod with Pocket Wizard and a GoPro. Make sure to turn off your beep on your Pocket Wizard and try to never fire before they fire at their clay. Even though the camera clicks aren't near as loud to the participant as they are here in the video, the clicking can be distracting. Even though it's one of our newest sports on campus, clay team has become one of our most popular. And to be honest, it's some of our favorite images, seeing what they look like from the front from the remote. If you've made it this far, thank you for watching our video. My last piece of advice is to make sure and receive permission before hanging a remote. Not everyone has a deep embedded passion for good photography like we do, so make sure you clear it before hanging it. And always, 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 safety cable first. Have a great day.